It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is August 7th, 2025. This is the C Block. And John, lots of things to talk about in the C Block. Anything you want to touch on before I go on a couple of my different points here?
No, please go ahead, Brad.
You know, I just recruited up again. Say that again because I didn't have you turned on.
No, go ahead, Brad. What's on your list?
Got a lot of stuff on my list. First off, the school board thing. I've got one of my teacher friends sent me this, and have you seen the Elliot Davis rant about the situation in Francis Howell? Have you seen this?
No, I know that he posts a lot to Boomer Facebook, so I haven't seen it.
He's got something on there which I haven't read. I don't understand this whole situation going on in St. Charles County. Steve Ellman needs to have a sit down with these people out there because we talked about, was that Monday we talked about the fact
Okay,
that,
so you mean the Francis Howell School Board, not St. Louis City School Board, because we talked about the city school board yesterday.
well, but we talked about Francis Howell, was it Tuesday?
Yeah, we talked about it, I believe, Monday.
Monday. Okay, the fact that the superintendent was supposed to show up for work on July 1st. He never showed up. And now they're paying him, was it $280,000 to essentially never work one day. I mean.
And now he got a brand new job in Oklahoma.
Did he really?
Yeah, I assumed that was what Elliot Davis is talking about. He immediately after Francis Howell announced his payout, he took a brand new job as a superintendent in Oklahoma. So maybe a situation that makes more sense for his family is to move to Oklahoma instead.
I don't understand this whole thing. I mean,
I think it's great. Imagine, Brad, he just got paid $229,000 to not do any work, and now he'll get a second salary actually doing a job in Oklahoma.
and he's probably
And who's the sucker for that? Sorry to interrupt, but who's the sucker for that? To me, Francis Howell is the sucker.
Well, John, that's my point. These school boards, the lady, you know her name. I know her. I met her a few times, and I always can't pronounce her name. The lady who got she got like $1 million from Wentzville. What was her name again?
Oh, Danielle Tormala. Yeah.
Danielle Tormala. Nice woman. I did a podcast with her, believe it or not, a couple years ago, and she got a golden handshake. Wasn't it $1 million? What did she got?
She got a lot of money, whatever it is. Yeah.
And she'd been the superintendent for a couple of years. Okay, we've talked about the fact that Bernie Dubray, who I know not well, but I see him at chamber meetings. And you know what's interesting about it? This is why I'm such a Bernie Dubray fan. Okay, Bernie Dubray is a long time. I think he was the superintendent in Fort Zumwalt for over 30 years. He's still very much involved in the community. I see him at Chamber of Commerce meetings. He's still out there, and I even said to him, I go, Bernie, you know, most of your compatriots in the educational system, when they retire, they're down in Florida, something like that. No, and he says, this is my community. I want to stay a part of it. And I've always thought that was, you know, really good about him. And since he's gone, I think they're on their third, possibly even fourth superintendent in Fort Zumwalt. I don't think he's been gone 5 years. You know, and I'm going like, why is this? The city of St. Louis, we had our famous lady who brought in all these Seattle crowd. We got to have a name for that, John. We got to come up with some kind of a name for the Seattle.
Yeah, like the grunge invasion.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but we should acknowledge the fact that they're people of color. So maybe we could call them GrungePOC. So they're grunge, they're Seattle, but they're people of color. Maybe we could call them GrungePOC Invasion.
And just this week, I think you talked about it, or we briefly talked about it, the fact that the audit, that was on one of your top three, wasn't it? The audit came out with the city of St. Louis.
It was yesterday. We talked about Scott Fitzpatrick's audit.
Right. The city of St. Louis is headed for bankruptcy as far as the school district is concerned. And
yeah, but you know what? And what I love, though, Brad, is that they had, the Post-Dispatch piece had quotes from Millicent Borishade, who was one of the women who Keisha Scarlett brought in. And Millicent Borishade is like, hey, I don't know anything about any fraud. Who knows? I don't know what Keisha was up to. She brought me in, but I can't speak for her. And so it seems as though they don't have any plan on how to get back to fiscal solvency.
And doesn't that bother you? See, this comes down to the thing. I read it last year, and I read this interesting article about the fact that nobody takes essentially nobody fesses up to the fact that they've made a mistake. And essentially the article centered around the fact that it's an empowering thing when you say, you know what, it's my fault. Because most people aren't going to say, well, you know, it wasn't my fault. You know, they're going to point the finger or something like that. But the person who steps forward and says, it's my fault. Don't you think that that right off the bat, when the lady who was the assistant superintendent and now the superintendent essentially shrugs her shoulders and says, I don't know anything about it, don't you want to say, okay, time for a new superintendent? Don't you think, John?
Yeah, probably. And so that decision would come down to the school board. And I think Fitzpatrick made the point in his audit paperwork and at the press conference to say we can't just blame the people that came here from Seattle. I'm paraphrasing. But where's the accountability of the school board? And I believe, if I recall correctly, Millicent Borishade, the temporary superintendent, essentially said, hey, school board didn't say anything to us when we were racking up these charges. So how did we know we were wrong?
Oh, well,
I mean, you can follow that logic, Brad. If nobody reins you in, Brad, you raised successfully 4 children. And if you hadn't taught them that certain behavior was wrong and they got away with everything, how would they know that it was wrong unless you told them to stop doing it?
Well, it's one of those things, and you're a parent as well too, John. You try to instill in your kids a sense of what's right and what's wrong. And what's frustrating to me is some of these kids you see out doing crazy stuff, and then when they get nailed, their parents say, well, my son, he would never do that. And I look at it this way, that my oldest son got him, a couple little scrapes, a couple different things like that. I actually represented him in court a couple times, which is a whole crazy another weird story. And I actually won a battle with the city of St. Peter's. I don't know if I told that story or not, but he got arrested, and I still say, matter of fact, it's interesting, the court administrator agreed with me, and they dropped the charges and expunged his record. But that was because of the fact that I was a dogged, parent. But the important thing was, when I got him out of that, I sat down with my son and I said, look, you screwed up and you shouldn't have gotten yourself in this situation in the first place. But the problem that I have was the system treated you poorly, which it did. He got screwed around by a prosecutor and stuff like that. And still, I didn't essentially negate the fact that he had made a mistake, actually 3 mistakes, and essentially got arrested by the police. I negated the fact that he got treated poorly by the system and they overcharged him, which was the situation, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. I mean, it's frustrating to me because of the fact that you see what's happening around the world. You see the educational systems in these other cities. And just like I talked about, remember we talked about that earlier in the week, we talked about the Prime Minister of Germany who was saying that the German people have becoming unproductive. They're only working 4 days a week, yada, 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 yada. And what do we have here in the state of Missouri? Didn't you say like a third of the schools in the state of Missouri or a quarter of the schools in the state of Missouri are now doing 4-day weeks? Wasn't that the number you had?
Yeah, I don't think it's that many, but it's a large number. I mean, I think you and I would both consider it a large number.
Well, see, if you are an athlete, or if you are a someone who wants to play for the St. Louis Symphony, and or if you are, someone who wants to be the best at what they're doing, whatever it is, you don't say, well, I'm only going to do it 4 days a week. You do it every single day. There's a guy, and matter of fact, I'll mention the guy's name, Scotty Myers, okay? You have no idea who Scotty Myers is, but Scotty Myers is a guy who used to be the producer for John Tesh with John Tesh's radio show. Now he does another show, which is over and running right now on our other station on Westplex 107 called The TJ Show, not to be confused with the BJ Show, but The TJ Show. And Scotty Myers every day posts pictures of him on the internet, on Facebook, of him working out at the gym. The guy is ripped. I want to say he's probably mid to late 50s, and I'm telling you, he has a body that their muscles are bulging everywhere. Every single day he's at the gym. Every single day. Because he's gotten this fitness thing. He wants to be the best he can be at bodybuilding and stuff like that. Okay, he doesn't say, oh, I don't want to do it 4 days a week. You talk about, and the interesting thing, remember when we had the manager of Tony, manager of the Cardinals, and the reason why he loved the Caribbean ball players, the ones from the
because they had an intense workout. You're talking about Tony LaRussa,
yeah,
Hall of Fame manager.
Tony LaRussa. He loved the Latin American ball players because A, they had the climate where they could play baseball every single day, but B, they played baseball every single day, and they had a tremendous work ethic. To me, that's what's missing. Now, perfect example, am I doing well in my life at this point? No, not really. Some people would say I'm struggling. Maybe that's the case, but you know what? every single day, I chip away at it every single day, 7 days a week. I'm doing something. And to the point where I have my goals. Matter of fact, I examined my goals yesterday. I have my new goals sitting right here on my floor, right next to me. And I'm working it every damn day. And the problem is, I don't think that's being instilled in our kids now, because the parents have gotten soft. Oh, little Jimmy, we got your cell phone so you could sit and play Fortnite in your room, instead of going and playing baseball. John, how many times do I drive around and drive by baseball fields on a Saturday or Sunday, and there's nobody on them?
They're completely empty, Brad.
I mean, back in the day, even not that long ago, my oldest son, who's now 41, we had a tough time, finding a field to practice at. Matter of fact, we ended up practicing at the coach's church's field, which they let us use, and it wasn't the best field. But it's just you don't see that anymore. And I think, what's the thing? I believe in what Gary Vee says. We got a promo that runs in this very station. We've gotten soft. We've gotten soft. That's the whole thing.
Well, I think, Brad, we've discussed many times on the show the cliche that good times create soft men create hard times create strong men, and it's just a never-ending cycle.
And you know what the never-ending cycle is?
Christy saying she likes hard men.
No. We're done for the day, and we're back at it again tomorrow. How's that?
I can't wait to see you tomorrow, Brad. I guess virtually. And by the way, check your Timdy list, Brad. Things I must do every day.
That's right. And you're on there.
Oh, easy, Brad.